It's the Mahatma Randy Show. Oh, hello. I did not see you there. Welcome to episode 41 of the Mahatma Randy Show. I had wanted to talk to you about Dinosaur World because I went there the other day and it was awesome. But unfortunately, the only picture that I got that came out was this one. So we're not going to be talking about that. Instead, I thought we would talk about this book here, Ready Player One. Sorry. Ready Player One. In my effort to do reviews of things that people might actually want to see or talk about or read. Now, if you're not familiar with it, Ready Player One, which I did not write, is a science fiction story set in the 2030s involving a vast virtual reality world called the Oasis. The world itself is a dumpster fire, an overpopulated, pretty much standard from Walmart dystopian future. There's not anything terribly interesting about it. Too many people, not enough resources, America is in the crapper, the world is in the crapper, the usual. This is not very inventive. People hide from their horrible realities by plugging into the Oasis, a massive international virtual reality simulation where you can be or do anything that you want. The guy who invented this is named James Halliday, and he was an 80s video game geek, much like myself. So, access to the game is by plunking a quarter in. That's how much it costs to actually get your subscription, and you can use it until your character dies, at which point it costs you another quarter. That's not really relevant, I just thought it was a nice touch. 5 years before the book begins, this Halliday guy died. And as soon as he died, a video will went out over the Oasis to everybody in the world, set to the tune of Dead Man's Party by Oingo Boingo. It's a dead man's party. Who could ask for more? Everybody's loving video. My ex-favorite band. And he basically says, if anybody can find 5 Easter eggs hidden throughout the Oasis, they will become the owners of the Oasis. This, of course, starts a feeding frenzy of every geek in the world trying to find it. However, people decide that the clues to find the Easter eggs to gain control of the whole virtual world have to be related to things that Halliday himself liked. Halliday appears to have completely stopped socially progressing somewhere around 1991, and so everybody learns everything they possibly can about 80s pop culture. Movies, video games, fashion, fads of all sorts, games, video games, RPGs, all that kind of stuff. This is actually a pretty clever way to set up a retro future, where everybody is obsessed with the 80s, almost as though it was new and an ongoing thing. However, when the book starts, though, interest in the hunt is starting to wind down. It's been 5 years, nobody's found squat, and people are just sort of losing interest, either assuming it will never be found, or that it didn't exist in the first place, and that Halliday is simply screwing with them all from beyond the grave. There is, however, a company called IOI, which is the second biggest computer company in the world, and they've got an entire division, which is plunking down billions of dollars every year to try and track this stuff down. They're called the Sixers for some reason, and they're bad guys. Kind of generic and boring. Anyway, our main protagonist, our hero, our narrator, is a guy named Wade, who is a poor 16 or 17-year-old geek who lives outside of Columbus, Ohio, in a trailer home, which pretty much dovetails with my experiences in Columbus, Ohio. And he manages to figure out a clue and finds the first egg. First person to do so after 5 years of looking. This attracts the attention of IOI. It also attracts the attention of another egg hunter, or Gunter, as they're known in the book, because, yeah, why not give him the stupidest possible name, named Artemis, who he has kind of a crush on and knows because these people are continually posting informational videos for each other to help with the quest, which is a little odd, given that everybody's theoretically trying to find it. Why would you give away any information you've got? But anyway, they end up forming a team with two Japanese gunters named Daito and Shoto, and Wade's friend H, and they have various wacky adventures. They eventually find all the eggs, the bad guys are defeated, yay. It's not a great book by any stretch of the imagination, but it is better than it has any right to be. The main appeal is obviously nostalgia. The book is as close to first run nostalgia as you're going to get. And if you're of a certain generation, if you're Gen X, basically, or more to the point, if you came up during the 80s, if you were a teenager during the 80s, this book is pretty much your dream. High school reunion with your past, but in a good way, because high school reunions kind of suck. Welcome to the point in the show where we shill my dumb books. This one is The Bones of an Angel. No, it's not. This is my book, The Bones of an Angel, collection of science fiction short stories. There's a picture of me with a mohawk on the back. There's pages. And no pictures. I'm sorry about that. It is surprisingly free of typos, though. Anyway, here's a review by Bennett Dawson. 5 out of 5 stars, worth more than I paid. I've read a lot of books in my 55 years, and most of the authors of those books are dead. I am overjoyed to find that someone with such a high level of talent, someone who should have years and years of stories left to tell. I look forward to buying every book written by Randall Shawns, plus tossing a few bucks in his tip bucket now and then. Shawns' imagination and storytelling deserve a lot more than most successful authors make. Spread the word. Buy this book. You won't be disappointed. Thank you. There's links below. You can pick it up on Kindle for $1 or in Dead Tree format for more than $1. There's all kinds of cool references, call-outs, Easter eggs, if you will, to just all kinds of highways and byways of 80s culture. And that's really the appeal. Regardless of what you like, it is in the book somewhere. Doesn't matter if it's music or movies or video games or the occasional political reference or whatever. It will eventually pop up in there. And eventually these things all stack on top of each other so that it gets cooler and cooler. For me personally, the high point of the book was about 3/4 of the way through when Max Headroom shows up and I punched the sky. I punched the sky.
This is Max Headroom.
I love the hell out of Max Headroom, and I always have. I don't know why. It makes no sense. I'll be the first one to admit that he sucks. But having Max turn up, just giddy with excitement. At the end of the book, in the big super crazy no way battle in the end of the book, you've got scenes where Voltron is trying to assemble and gets blown up in mid-assembly, while Ultraman and Mechagodzilla are fighting each other, and Wade flies into battle on the Serenity from Firefly, which is being piloted by Max Headroom. Ha! And, super final crazy melee, no way battle. And in the end, the good guys win. One of the good guys gets killed along the way. Evil is defeated. Wade gets control of the internet, basically. And that's it. It's a fun story. It's a fun story. It's not great, but it's good. It's an easy read. You can pile through it. It is fun to remember things. There's a sense in it of being like a kid playing with all of his toys in his room and setting up, super crazy things that could never happen in any media. There's a kind of Who Framed Roger Rabbit thing to the nth power going on here, where instead of having 2 or 3 cartoon universes punching into each other, I'm sorry, I don't know why I keep doing this gesture so much. Instead of having 2 or 3 cartoon universes piling into each other, you've got like 50 fictional 80s franchises stacking on top of each other, and there's no way that anybody could ever get the rights to do all that and do a decent movie. And if you saw the movie, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It was awful. I may or may not review that in the future. Sound off below if you want me to make fun of it. Anyway, the book is not great. The book is good. I like the book. I would recommend reading the book. It's an easy read. You can pile through it in 2 or 3 days without really pushing yourself. I've read it 2, 3 times. I liked it, not as much upon repeated reading. It doesn't really reveal a lot of hidden depth to the repeated reader. There's not a lot of extra substance. There's not a lot of substance there. Oh, but it's fun. There's been a lot of complaint about some things in the book. Wade is a bit of a creep and a bit of a perv, and he sort of stalks Artemis for a while, and there's a couple of other things like that that are sort of concerns, and I agree they are concerns. On the one hand, Wade is a 17-year-old poor kid with no social graces who has no real-world friends or anything like that. So his behavior is kind of understandable, not necessarily excusable, but at the same time, it's not as cartoonishly evil as some people who trade on hyperbole would have you believe. He's just a geeky kid. So, yeah, not a lot of negatives to this book. Now, when we get to the sequel, that's a completely different matter. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Go the hell away. I really wanted to talk about Dinosaur World. Oh, hey, by the way, did I ever show you guys my tattoo? Yeah, this is Kennedy. I got it in like 1992. She used to be a VJ on MTV, and I kind of had a crush on her. I regret it now because I hate her, but it's not bad. I mean, it makes her nose a little smaller than it was in reality, but I think it's a pretty good tattoo. Anyway, go the hell away.